Arc 2, Part 4. This should be the last part for this arc. If you need a reminder of everything that's happened, go check the description. Let's go. Subaru wakes up. The room he's in is different from every time before. It's full of stuff, but nothing looks extravagant like in the mansion. He must be in the village. He sees Amelia asleep on a chair nearby. Puck comes out from behind her hair, greets him, and explains the situation. Rem managed to get Subaru back to the village so that he could be healed. Due to her omni-transformation, her wounds had vanished by the time she got back. The kids had been healed, and curses removed by Puck and Beatrice. Both versions point out that Amelia used a bit of her ode. Between healing Subaru and summoning Puck outside of work hours, she used everything that she had and then some. Now, Puck doesn't seem to act like it's as big of a deal as I thought he would have, and it makes me kind of suspect that he's not telling the full story. But that's kind of just speculation based off of information from future arcs. Subaru leaves the house so that he doesn't wake up Amelia. He runs into Ram, who is taking food to the villagers. She thanks him in her normal, condescending way. She says, when a domain's people suffer any loss, its lord is held liable. She also lets him know that she has fixed the barrier, so it shouldn't be a problem from now on. Olgarm, or Urugaramu, is the name of the mob beast, like that specific type. It's not that important, but I figured I'd go ahead and throw it in. You never know when Subaru's going to nickname something, so I gotta get their actual names out before that happens. In the light novel, Subaru sees some villagers grouped together talking and thinks that there may have been some casualties. Remember, some of them went into the forest to go get the kids while Rem was healing them. It's not said for sure that's what happened, but there is a possibility that's what happened. Subaru goes through the village, checking on each kid. While they are all still asleep from the rough night that almost killed them, they are alive and well. All the parents naturally want to thank Subaru for his actions, but Subaru doesn't know how to handle compliments and ends up leaving each house before they can. He eventually finds Beatrice by the town gate. She tells him that he is going to die in half a day. The bites from the beast put more curses on him. One can be removed easily, but with this many, it's like a tight knot that can't be undone very fast. She can do it, but it would take far too long. She explains that he only has one option left. The curse is essentially a meal for the mob beast. When it gets hungry, it will start feasting, which will probably be in half a day. If it dies, then the meal will end and the person will be saved. The light novel goes a step further to explain the situation with the kids. By the time that they got there, the curse had actually already activated. And I kind of suspected this, except that the anime and the light novel didn't say anything about it up until now. So I kind of decided not to bring it up because I was still on the fence. Anyway, the kids were actually dying from the curse. But I guess at some point last night, Rem actually killed the beast that had put the curse on them and saved them. Subaru realizes something. He's walked around the entire village, but he hasn't seen Rem at all. He asks where she is, and Beatrice confirms Subaru's thoughts. Rem went back to the forest to kill all of the beasts in order to save Subaru. Anime Subaru just now realizes that he hasn't seen Rem all day. Light novel Subaru thinks about her before he reaches Beatrice, but he doesn't have time to ask around about her, so I guess the end result is really the same. In the anime, Beatrice explains that the curses on Subaru are like a knot that's become too complicated to undo. In the light novel, she actually breaks out strings, like different color strings, and shows it as a demonstration as she's explaining it. Fun fact, in the light novel, Beatrice says that magic keeps her clothes clean. It's not important in any way, but now you know. Ram happens to overhear this part. She runs off to find Rem, but Subaru stops her. Without a way to find her, they'll just be wasting time. She explains that she can find Rem using clairvoyance. They hinted at this last night before they left the mansion, that she could keep an eye on him, and this is how. But apparently it takes a lot out of her. Since they are twins, Subaru guesses that she is an Oni and can fight, but Ram admits that she is hornless and can't fight as well as Rem. But she can use wind magic, which will keep them safe. With that in mind, they head through the village towards the forest. We'll talk about the hornless deal a little later on. Subaru is given the sharpest sword in the village, and the kids that had just woken up shove a bunch of random items into his pockets. It shows that the villagers have faith in him. The kids also tell Ram that they want to thank Rim, which makes her happy. The two run into the forest, fighting off stray mob beasts as they go. The beasts seem strangely attracted to Subaru and only ever go for him. Once the area is clear, Ram uses her clairvoyance, known as Sight of 1,000 Eyes, and finds a few mob beasts hiding close by. She slices them with wind as they jump at Subaru. Continuing forward, Subaru asks what hornless means. We'll talk about the hornless deal a little later on. Again. She explains that Onis are normally born with 2 horns. Twins are born with 1 horn each, which is why they are normally killed at birth. Ram and Rem were allowed to live. We'll talk about... Jesus fuck. I'm gonna stop interrupting. We'll talk about their backstory later. Okay, but there are actually a few things that I do want to talk about now. So the clairvoyance that Ram uses lets her see through the eyes of anything on the same wavelength. I have no idea what that means, but she can basically see through the eyes of any bug or animal within her vicinity. It seems like she has to cycle through everything on the same wavelength in order to get to whatever she wants to see. And during that time, she has to concentrate, which leaves her kind of defenseless. And the light novel does a better job of explaining or showing how draining it is. The anime just kind of makes it seem like she just does it and then it's no big deal. Something that's brought up a lot in the novels is the difference in worldviews between Subaru and everyone else in this world. Subaru about dies on several occasions, but he still feels bad for the beasts that are being killed. Ram even calls him out on his being too empathetic. And this difference is even more apparent in later arcs. Subaru knows that the mob beasts are probably targeting him due to the witch's scent. He gets an idea. He starts to tell Ram about his ability, but is stopped, just like last time. A few things on this. Subaru makes the connection that return by death and the punishment for talking about it are both connected to the witch and why he has her smell. Beatrice told him on multiple occasions that the scent was getting worse, and Subaru finally caught on. The anime skips over the ghost hand for this scene, but the light novel actually talks about it. So the first time this happened, the shadow hand appeared, and the arm didn't even go all the way to the elbow. This time, it goes all the way to the shoulder. Also the first time, Subaru says it wasn't pain, it was fear. But this time, Subaru says 100% that it is painful. Ram can tell that something has changed. The wind seems to have shifted, and she can smell beasts getting closer. Since Rim is after the beast, then drawing them to one area should help them find her. At least that's the plan. The beasts start to attack, and Ram holds them off for a bit. Between the clairvoyance and the wind attacks, she doesn't have much mana left, and quickly runs out of strength. Subaru grabs her and has to carry her as he runs away. In both versions, they end up falling off a cliff. In the anime, he just runs off. In the light novel, one of the beasts actually comes up and bites him on the shoulder, which causes him to look away and not paying attention to where he's going, and then he ends up running off a cliff. It's a good way of showing, or of not showing Subaru as stupid while also showing the beast as smart. And it's also more gory, which the anime is not going to go for. Also, the sword breaks in the process. Not that Subaru was really doing anything with it anyway, but now he can do even less. In the anime, the mob beasts are already at the bottom, almost like they were just waiting for them. But the light novel has a little more fun with it. The leader casts a spell, and they all jump on the rocks as they fall down so that they can land safely at the bottom. Before they hit the ground, Ram uses wind magic to cushion their fall. They are surrounded again, and Ram is passed out from using all of her mana. Subaru is left holding her and no way to fight back. Before the beasts attack, Rim drops in. Subaru is happy to see her, but that quickly changes as a spiked ball whizzes past him. In the anime, she just attacks. It's supposed to show that she's in a frenzy and is just attacking everything. But in the light novel, she actually recognizes Ram. She yells at Subaru to get away from her sister as she attacks him. It shows that she has a little bit of her sanity and is a good clue on how to get her to come back to normal, and the anime just skips over it. A few beasts lunge at her, causing her attention to turn away from Subaru. Both Rem and the Mobby see him as a lesser threat, so he is ignored. He takes his chance to start running, but he wants to keep Rem's attention, so he uses the witch's scent. As he screams out about his ability, he is gripped with fear once again. Once again, the anime has skipped over the whole process. The light novel had upgraded the hand to a whole right arm, and this time they add in a whole left arm. So while the right hand is going for Subaru's heart, the left hand is caressing his face. And I think I understand how this works. So while time is stopped, Subaru feels the pain from the hands. But then when time goes back to normal, the pain goes away. He still has the memories. So while he's not physically in pain, he still feels the pain in his mind. It explains why he acts like he's in pain, even though he's not technically in pain at that moment. The fight continues, and the light novel actually adds in an activation of one of the curses. While Subaru's out here dodging dogs and metal balls, he just hits the ground suddenly out of fatigue. He recognizes that it is the curse, and Rem just suddenly jumps towards one of the beasts that's nowhere near her. And as soon as she kills it, the curse gets lifted. So it's apparent that Rem may not be in her right mind right now, but she still remembers why she is there, and she actually saves him. How that squares away with the fact that she keeps trying to smash his face in, I don't know. Ram wakes up and says they need to hit her horn. Her horn is the reason she is acting like this. If they hit her horn hard enough, it will bring her back to normal. With the battle still raging, there's no way for Subaru to get close. He has an idea, but says Ram won't like it. Ram says that if it saves Rem, then she won't get mad. With permission given, Subaru runs towards Ren, ready to enact his plan. He rears back and throws the limp Ram at her. Rem drops her weapon and catches Ram. With her hands full, Subaru tries to swing the sword at her horn, but he hesitates. This lets Rem easily dodge the attack. Before Subaru can turn around, an explosion erupts under his feet, sending him flying. The small beast was taking the opportunity to finish the fight. On the way down, he gets ready to swing the sword again. Rem is ready to attack first, when another magic spell appears below her. She stomps on the ground and negates the effects. As she is distracted, Subaru takes the opening and hits her horn with full force. And now we take a little interlude. We get a flashback at this point, and we get to see Ram and Rem's past. The twins are condemned to die. That is the law of the Oni. The chief steps up to execute the infants. The blue-haired girl starts to cry. Seeing her sister upset, the pink-haired girl uses wind to push the chief back. Everyone is amazed. Even as an infant with one horn, she is stronger than the village chief. Seeing that she is a prodigy, the twins are allowed to live. So they're allowed to live because Ram's a fucking beast. Well, they're Onis, but you know what I meant. I'm just going to run through a lot of the backstory here. So, Onis look like humans, but they have two horns that are hidden most of the time, and they grow out to draw in mana. They use this mana to increase their strength and their fighting power. Because of this, they see themselves as hot shit, and they look down on weaklings. Twins are born with one horn each, and it's apparently possible to be born without a horn, but I don't know how likely that is. So since one horn or no horn makes a person weaker, the Onis decided to just kill them at birth to strengthen the clan. Yeah, that's just their way of thinking. The only reason that Rim and Ram were allowed to live is because they showed potential. So while they were growing up, Ram proved her strength by using water and wind magic. Rem tried to use water magic, but she wasn't anywhere near as good as Ram. She wasn't bad, she was just average. And this is where the inferiority complex comes in. Everyone in the village sees Ram as absolutely amazing because of her natural talent, even though she only has one horn. It doesn't seem like anyone just comes out and says this, but there's a lot implied that Ram would be better off if Rim hadn't been born. Since their culture is so focused on strength and weakness, Rem sees herself as less than her sister. You would think this would foster some resentment, but as we've seen from the current time, she just accepts this as true. She is shit and Ram is great, because that's pretty much what she's been subtly taught her entire life. The only other important thing that happens here is that their entire fucking village dies. The witch cult attacks and kills everyone except for Rim and Ram. And in the process, Ram gets her horn cut off, which is why she is now hornless. And in that moment, Rim is happy, even if it's just a little bit. Her village is destroyed, her parents are killed, and she sees Ram's horn get cut off, and she is relieved. And she feels like shit about it afterwards. And that mixed with her already feeling like less than her sister pretty much explains her current views on herself and her sister. Mental issues aside, it doesn't say that this is the witch cult, but it's the witch cult. It explains why Rem goes fucking nuts whenever witch related stuff comes up. And we see later on that they are wearing the same clothes as the witch cult. Anyway, they're saved by Roswell, and he brings them back to the mansion. There's a lot of other things that happen between then and now, obviously, but we'll talk about that when you're older. The light novel does an amazing job of explaining Rem's thought process throughout Subaru's time in the mansion. She doesn't trust him because he's just some random guy with the witch's scent who's coming in and fucking up the peace of the mansion. When she sees him sleeping on Amelia's lap, she has a realization that Subaru is a lot like her. Okay, that's not exactly what she thinks. She sees him as weak, but trying his best for the people around him, which reminds her of someone. When Subaru wants to go past the barrier to save the kids, she isn't thinking about the possibility of an attack. She's focused on the part of her that she sees in him. The difference being that Subaru has the determination to press forward, whereas Rem doesn't. I had an issue with this during the last video of her trusting him a little too much during this part, but these details kind of help clear things up for me. Later, when she sees Subaru protecting the kid, she decides to trust him. And then when he saves her from the sneak attack, she has the opportunity to save him by grabbing his hand and pulling him out of the way. But she catches a whiff of the witch's scent and hesitates. This is why that she is going so far to try to save him now. Just like with her sister, she feels guilty about her thoughts in the moment and will do anything to atone for it. Rem wakes up with Subaru carrying her. The three of them are still trying to escape the forest. Subaru and Ram are all beat up, bleeding, and exhausted. Rem tries to move, but she doesn't have the energy. She falls into despair. She must do this alone. She must make up for her mistakes. A headbutt from Subaru stops her thinking. He calls her stupid as his head starts to bleed, and he has to admit that he is also stupid. 3 heads are better than 1, he says. They try to come up with a plan, and Subaru gets an evil smile on his face as he says, I could shove Rem towards you and tragically run to the right, trying to seem devious. But Ram quickly throws that out the window by stating his intent. You'll distract them while I take Rem and run. Failing to hide his embarrassment, Subaru agrees. The light novel has Subaru start talking about the shadowy hand, which causes another incident. It doesn't show it in the text, but it does have Subaru get cut off and act like he's in pain. He says, That's over the line, huh? That's a little strict, ain't it? So apparently, even talking about the punishment is enough to get punished. In both versions, Rem asks why he's doing so much, and Subaru says that it's because she was his first date, which is using Amelia's idea of what a date is And I disagree that it was a date. I disagree that he wouldn't be doing all this regardless, but it's really not that big of a deal, so I'll let it go. Ram and Rem run off, but they don't really make it all that far. In the anime, Ram falls over, maybe out of exhaustion, maybe not. I don't know. It's not really all that clear. And the light novel doesn't really help either. It doesn't seem like she falls over. It kind of seems more like Rem just starts moving too much and slips out of her hands. But I was really hoping that the light novel would clear this up, but it apparently doesn't. Subaru runs off, and the beasts chase after him. His right arm is dislocated after the fall from hitting Rem. At least he hopes it's just dislocated. He crosses paths with the leader. Subaru is ready for a magic fight, but the small beast has another idea. It begins to grow to an enormous size. It is now similar looking to the others, but is about 15 to 20 feet tall. It's now apparent why it is the leader. Subaru doesn't back down, but there really wasn't an option anyway. He is completely surrounded by the other beast. The leader gets ready to attack as Subaru casts Shamak to get in closer. Black smoke fills the area, enveloping all of them. Subaru runs up and sticks the broken sword into the leader's neck. I just realized that this is the second time that he has cast this ability, and the first time that he's done it by himself. So there was a good chance that nothing would happen. This was a huge gamble on his part. The light novel has Shamak as a lot more powerful than what's in the anime. Anyone that's in the Black Mist seems to lose a lot of their senses. Subaru has to remember what the fuck he was even doing, and all the beasts that are within the smoke don't notice when they take damage. And then the anime just kind of nerfs it down to a smoke screen. He pops in a boko fruit that one of the kids had slipped into his pocket so that he doesn't pass out. As the smoke clears, the leader stomps on Subaru. The broken sword wasn't enough. Subaru, you basically stabbed him once with what is now a long knife. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? So in the anime, it pins him down to the ground. But in the light novel, it seems more like he picks him up and kind of stabs him with his claws while it's doing it. As it goes to bite, Subaru takes the sword out of the body and stabs the beast in the mouth. It takes a step back and Subaru stands up to continue fighting as fire begins to rain down. Roswell floats to the ground as the corpses burn in the fire he had cast. Subaru, Ram, and Rem are all safe. Subaru was surprised that Roswell even found him, and Roswell replies the words that Amelia had drilled into him. Even if it's crazy and reckless, if he's backed into a corner, he will probably use magic. It's pointed out in the light novel that the only person who knows where they went is Beatrice. So she apparently snitched, and it was 100% the right call. Ram and Rem join the two. Roswell thanks them all for their work. Rem tackles Subaru and squeezes him while crying. Subaru's adrenaline slowly subsides as the pain and fatigue hit him all at once. His mind and body give up, and Subaru passes out. The light novel goes back to the void, which is a little surprising to me because I thought this only happened whenever he died, but he hasn't died here, so I guess that means he can go here whenever he dies or just loses consciousness. Subaru is still just a mind floating in the void, but this time he notices a silhouette that he thinks might be a woman. She reaches out to him, and he has a strong desire to embrace her. But before that can happen, another shadow appears behind him. The shadow, with white fingers, holds him, and the first shadow starts to disappear. Subaru is in tears as the shadow fades, and the last thing he hears is "love you." No idea what all this is just yet, but we'll figure it out eventually. Subaru wakes up in bed with Rem sitting in a chair beside him, holding his hand. He's a little worried that he grabbed her hand while asleep, but she confesses that it was her doing. He seemed to be having trouble sleeping, and she didn't know how to help. This was the only thing that she could think of. She informs him that the mob beasts have been killed, and the curses on Subaru are all gone. He is saved. Rem breaks down. She cries and lets out all of her insecurities. She still feels inferior to her idea of Ram. Subaru thanks her for saving him. Your sister's not the one who did that. You did. You call yourself a replacement, but no one can replace you. Where I come from, there's a saying demons laugh when you talk about next year. I'm weak, so I'm sure I will end up leaning on you. What's wrong with that? I'm weak, stupid, scary looking, and dense. We can lean on each other as we move forward. Rem cries as she smiles and laughs and lets the pain wash away. Pretty sure that's not how that saying is supposed to be used, but whatever. Finally, a happy ending for this arc. Subaru's been through a lot of shit, but I mean, honestly, this is a pretty good outcome. And of course, Rim waifu points scored with this scene. But we're not done with this arc just yet. Roswell and Ram have their late night meeting. Ram says she tried to track down the person controlling the mob beast, but they escaped. It was one of the kids that Subaru and Rim had saved from the forest. The light novel goes into a little more detail about the mob beast. They had all of their horns removed, and apparently, if you cut off their horns, then they will obey you. So that mixed with the fact that the barrier would have had to been taken down by a person, that makes Roswell and Rom agree that someone was probably behind this whole incident. I really thought about saving this for later, but the light novel just brings it up, so I guess I'm just going to say it now. It's this girl. She's the one controlling the beast. No one suspects a kid to be evil, so no one really thought anything about it. But Ram pulled out some detective skills and found out the truth. As per usual, Ram sits on Roswell's lap and he begins to pour mana into her forehead where her horn would be. Ram needs this almost nightly ritual. After finishing, Roswell tells her that they will be busy for a while. For the sake of my goal, when I kill the dragon. Why he wants to do that? Why Amelia becoming ruler helps with that? I will tell you when you're older. Just kidding, I've already spoiled a little bit of this. Whoever becomes ruler has to make a pact with the dragon. So Roswell's probably planning on doing something at that time, and thinks that if Amelia becomes ruler, that's going to be his best shot to get in close. The light novel adds in a little more information that's relevant for the next arc. Both Puck and Beatrice tell Ram that Subaru's gate is in bad shape. Between all the healing and him trying to use magic, his gate needs time to heal. Hence for the next arc. Ram tells Roswell that Rem is in love with Subaru. It'll be very apparent in the next arc. And I'm not surprised that, Ram would notice, but I'm a little surprised that she decided to tell Roswell about it. Not that it matters, he doesn't really care. In fact, Roswell in the light novel is very blunt about his feelings. He just straight up tells Ram that he sees all of them as pawns. As long as Rem is still following after Ram, then she can still be used. And I think this way of thinking kind of lines up better with everything else, but the anime decided to tone him down a little bit. Okay, before we go back to the main story, let's talk about horns. So I was on the fence about how horns relate to gates, but the light novel actually just explains it. It says the horn functions like a stronger, finely tuned gate. So having one horn means you're functioning at half capacity compared to everyone else, and having no horn means that you have a broken gate. Essentially, Ram is living with a broken gate. She can use mana, but she can't take enough in. The theory that I think is true is that Onis require more mana just to function normally. Since Ram can't pull in enough mana, she runs out of energy pretty quick. So Roswell has to give her mana almost every night. Otherwise, there is a chance that she could die of exhaustion. I'm not sure if this is true for everyone. I didn't see anything about this when I was looking up information about the magic video. It could be true that everyone just uses mana throughout the day, and that if your gate is broken in this particular way, then you just slowly run out of energy until you die. I have no idea. The same night, Subaru meets with Amelia. She is worried about him always throwing himself into danger, but she still wants to thank him. Subaru will accept a date as his reward, and Emilia agrees. This doesn't actually happen here in the light novel. It happened back in Subaru's room right after Rem left. It's not a big change, and I'm not really sure why the anime decided to have this conversation outside, but my guess is that they just wanted this to be the ending instead of Roswell. But that's it. Subaru has finished his first week. He's alive, Rem's in love with him, Amelia has agreed to a date. It has been nothing but wins this loop, except for all the pain and suffering. Alright, let's go over some stats. Alright, starting with the number of days from Subaru's perspective, I just lumped all the first arc together just to make it easier. I think I forgot to pull a date for the first arc the last time that I showed this chart, but I threw in some extra labels, so hopefully that helps. Subaru died on the 4th night for the first 3 loops. For the 4th loop, he actually makes it to the 5th day, and it's getting dark by the time he kills himself, so I'm counting that as 5 days. The last loop, he goes to town a day early, which means it's the 3rd day. Then that night, he rescues the kids, wakes up on the 4th day, goes back to the forest, then wakes up on the 5th day after being saved. At least that's what I'm counting it as. So, from Subaru's point of view, he has been in this world 26 days, almost a month. From the world's perspective, he has been there for a total of 6 days. 6 days and 7 deaths. Last thing before we call it quits on this arc, let's do a quick recap of the successful timeline. Subaru goes to the store, ends up in another world, talks to a merchant, runs off down an alley, gets cornered by thieves, yells for help, gets help, runs to Felt's house, goes to the loot house with Felt. Emilia shows up, Elsa shows up, shit happens, Reinhardt shows up, shit ends, Subaru gets cut, faints, wakes up in a mansion, gets a job, works himself sick, takes a nap, goes shopping, sucks at dog training, sucks out the venom, takes a hike to save some kids, becomes a chew toy, wakes up, takes a hike to save a demon, rediscovers the power of telling the truth, fights a demon using a demon, thinks about his life choices far too late, and is saved by a flying clown. There's still a few points where Subaru pulls out some random knowledge that really helps him out, but honestly, the successful timeline for this arc makes it look like Subaru was just hanging on for dear life most of the time. Well, that is arc 2. I will start arc 3 when I start it. Goodbye.